My beloved child, today I draw near to tell you something that, if you truly listen, will change the entire direction of your life. I know you have often listened to things that belong to me. You listen to sermons, you read words that speak about me. You let songs that honor me play in your home and your headphones in your lonely evenings. Many times your heart has trembled, your eyes have filled with tears, and your lips have whispered promises. But after that moment of light touches you briefly, you fold it away like a page of a book and tuck it into a corner of your memory, then continue living according to the old patterns. You think that listening, understanding, or being moved is enough to connect you with me, but if truth remains only as a thought, it has not yet become life. I do not speak to impress your intellect. I speak to break the invisible chains that quietly steer your choices. I do not reveal myself merely so you can gather more spiritual information, but so that you may enter a new way of living, where every habit, every reaction, and every small decision throughout the day is shaped toward the direction I desire. For from the very beginning I created you not to be only a hearer but a companion, one who walks with me and carries my imprint in every part of life. Look honestly at yourself. How many times have you said, "I understand, I know I will change"? Yet only days later, everything returns to the way it was, as if no promise had ever been spoken. You have become familiar with the emotional stirring during worship, yet unfamiliar with true transformation in the quiet room where no one sees but me. You are used to letting my words become the most beautiful part of your notes, but not the deepest part of your path. You assume that merely being near a spiritual atmosphere is enough to protect your soul from wandering, but you forget that I am the way, the truth, and the life, and only when you walk in that way, live in that truth, and let that life govern your actions will you truly be safe. Just as the people long ago heard my voice in the wilderness, saw the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire, ate manna from heaven, and yet hardened their hearts, you are in the same danger when you only see, but do not respond, when you feel, but do not obey. I do not say this to make you panic, but to awaken you. You must understand that indifference to my voice is never harmless. Every time you hear but do not do, you are not staying still, you are slowly drifting away from the path I laid out for you. Every time you say later, your heart becomes a little harder, like soil, compacted under many footsteps, making it difficult for the seed to take root. I see the places where you tell yourself, "God understands me. I'll change later," and I hear the explanations you create in your mind so that you can continue holding on to the very things I have touched and asked you to release. You say, "You know my heart," and indeed I do. I know every hidden corner, every fear, every habit you are afraid to confront. I know the trembling inside you at the thought of what your life might look like if you truly followed my voice. And because I know I cannot remain silent, if a physician sees a growing illness in your body but smiles and says nothing to keep you comfortable, that is not love. In the same way, if I speak only gentle words to keep you in a false sense of safety, I would no longer be faithful. Today I tell you, hearing without responding is not a small oversight. It is the root of a life slowly separating itself from its source. When my words remain outside the areas you allow to be influenced outside your relationships, your decisions, your use of time, your body, your talents, you are telling me that you believe you are better at directing your life than I am. My child, that illusion is the very thing that led humanity away from me in the beginning. I am not calling you back merely to fix a few surface details. I am calling you to give me the right to direct your entire life. From the very beginning of this message, I want you to understand that this is not a word for you to feel deeply, but a gentle yet sharp sword dividing truth from falsehood within you, so that you no longer confuse hearing about me with living with me each day. I stand at the door of your heart, not as a cold judge, but as a father patiently waiting for the moment when you finally realize that it is time to stop only listening and begin answering with your whole life. Do you truly belong to me, my child? I want you to stop and think seriously. What has truly changed in your life since the day you said you believed in me? Not the things you can tell others, not the beautiful memories of worship services, not the moments when your emotions ran high, but the hidden places, how you react when you are hurt, how you choose what is right when no one is watching, how you face temptation when there is no worship music playing around you. It is in these quiet moments that you will see clearly whether my word flows within you like living water or simply lies dormant like stored paragraphs in your memory. Do not rush to point out what you do for me in public. Look instead at what you are willing to give up, surrender, correct, and let go of, simply because you know it pleases me, even when no one applauds you. There you will discover whether you hear me as a story or hear me as the voice of the one who rules your life. You often think, at least I'm still listening, still believing, still moved. That must be better than so many others. But I do not place you next to others for comparison. My measure is not the distance between you and the people around you, but the distance between you and the words I have spoken over your life. There are some whom you think are far from me, yet they are taking small, sincere steps of obedience, even though they know far less than you. And there are those who know much, teach, much, speak beautifully about me, yet in the hidden places they cling tightly to what I have touched many times. My child, which group do you want to belong to? The group that impresses others with spiritual knowledge, or the group that brings me joy because they obey even when no one notices? Look at a lamp placed in a house. It is not hung there to be admired, but to be lit when darkness comes. If you polish it, display it, admire it, talk about it, but never light it, when night falls, the room remains dark. My word in your life is the same. You may underline it, memorize it, write it on your walls, but if you do not let it guide your real choices, whether to forgive or not to remain faithful, or not to be pure, or not to be humble, or not, the darkness within you remains. You may own an entire library of scripture, but if your heart still acts as though it decides good and evil on its own, you are still living like one without my word. Bread on the table feeds no one until it is broken and eaten. The truth I give you is the same. It must be eaten through response, through concrete action, not merely smelled through emotion. You often wait for the right emotion before you obey. You say, when I truly feel ready, I will forgive. When I am less afraid, I will follow your will. When I am less busy, I will make time for you. But listen to me, my child, emotions are not the master, they are companions. True faith does not walk by the voice of feelings, but by the voice of my command. Many times obedience must come first, and emotions change afterward. Abraham did not wait until his heart felt completely settled before leaving his homeland. He only knew the one who called him so, even without knowing the road he walked. Likewise, you do not need to understand everything, overcome every fear or silence, every hesitation before obeying. You only need to trust me enough to take the first step, even if it trembles. You say, but life is complicated. There are too many pressures, too many responsibilities, too many things pulling me in every direction. I know every burden on your shoulders more clearly than you do. And that is exactly why my word must be your compass, not an optional extra for the leftover bits of your time. When you face decisions about work, relationships, finances, or the future, you often ask others, consult social media. Listen to the standards of the world first, and only ask me last, if at all. You listen to every voice except mine, then wonder why your heart is confused and why peace feels far away. My child, true peace does not come from hearing many opinions, but from hearing one voice, the voice of the one who leads you, and then obeying. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you known very clearly what I wanted you to do, to cut off a harmful relationship, to stop a secret habit, to reorder your time, to correct a wrong word, yet you delayed because you were afraid of loss? afraid of what others would think, afraid of stepping into something new. You say you are not ready yet, but is it not because you still love that thing? Still want to hold on to it more than you want to hold on to me? I do not ask this question to expose you as a hypocrite, but so that you can see for yourself the very thing which, if you refuse to call it by its true name, will continue to control your life. From the beginning, temptation has always whispered, you can choose what is good for yourself. You do not need to fully trust the one who created you. Every time you know my will and still choose otherwise, you are agreeing with that whisper. My beloved child, do not be deceived into thinking that just because I have not immediately disciplined you, you must be going in the right direction. My patience is not a sign of my approval. My silence is not a nod of acceptance. Rather, each day I am extending to you a window of time to return like the gardener who gives a barren fig tree more time before cutting it down, digging around it, and fertilizing it, hoping it will bear fruit. I watch over you. I place reminders, opportunities, conversations, and unexpected situations in your path, not to annoy you, but to rouse you from the sleep of compromise. Every warning I send is not the voice of a judge who delights in punishment, but the voice of a father who sees his child walking dangerously close to the edge of a cliff. You think that as long as you still come to me from time to time, still feel something, when you hear about me, you cannot be too far away. But remember this, a branch is not separated from the vine in one noisy moment. It dries slowly, weakens gradually, and is cut off from the sap over many days of disconnection. Spiritual distance is often like that, not dramatic, but a quiet process in which you become so busy that you no longer have time for me, in which you tend to every other relationship while neglecting your relationship with me, in which you still speak my name, but let other things decide your joy, your sorrow, your worth, and your goals. In those times, my word may still be heard by you, but it is no longer treated as your final authority. It becomes just one voice among many, often placed last. So I ask you not with the tone of condemnation, but with the voice of the one who loves you and does not want you to deceive yourself. What do you truly consider my word to be in your life? Is it advice to be consulted, or a loving command to it be obeyed? Is it just part of a spiritual culture you participate in? Or is it the path you set your feet on every day? Are you willing to let me touch the areas you have kept for yourself, the secret decisions, the dreams you have never surrendered, the fears you have not allowed me to address? You truly hear me only when you are willing to let my word cross the boundary of theory and begin rearranging every corner of your life. I know this may sound difficult and demanding, but listen to me, my child. Obedience is not the price you pay to buy my love. It is the door through which you step deeper into that very love. It is precisely when you let go of what you consider to be your very life that you begin to taste the true life I have prepared for you. It is when you allow my word to break some of the old structures in your thoughts and habits that you discover what freedom really is. Freedom from the chains of sin and fear. I do not call you to obey in order to make you smaller, but to bring you into a larger space where you can breathe, stand firm, and live as the person you were created to be. And it all begins with something that seems simple. Do you still want only to listen, or do you want to begin to respond? Now I must tell you something very direct that may make you uneasy, but if you allow it to pierce through your defenses, it can become a turning point for your soul. I will not save you merely because you have heard about me many times, been moved by me many times, or discussed me many times. Eternal life does not belong to those who stand outside my house listening to the stories from within, nodding thoughtfully, and then turning away. Eternal life is given to those who step inside, sit down, hand over the keys of their life to the master of the house, and accept that this house will become their own. You often think, At least I am still around the things of God, still in a spiritual community, still interested in the Word. But being around something and being in it are two completely different realities. You may stand by a river all day, listening to the sound of the water, feeling its cool breeze. But if you never step in, that water will never wash the dust from your body. When I say that I will not save you just because you have heard it does not mean my love for you has diminished or that I am stingy with mercy. On the contrary, precisely because I love you, I must tell you the truth. Salvation is not a badge you pin on after a single emotional response, then spend the rest of your life living as if you are the owner of yourself. Salvation is a covenant, a living relationship in which I give myself to you and you give me the right to lead you in all your ways. If you only want from me forgiveness, protection, and provision, while keeping for yourself the right to decide what is right or wrong, what is worth pursuing or ignoring, then you have not truly entered that covenant. You are like a guest who comes to a house, eats the meal the host has prepared, praises it highly, and then leaves to live as if you never knew him, returning only when you want another meal. But I have not called you to be a guest. I have called you to be a child. And a child does not just visit when in need. A child lives in the house, accepts its discipline, its order, its values, and its rhythm. Understand this through another picture. A branch is not connected to the vine just once, but continually, every second. Fresh sap must keep flowing in to keep it green and fruitful. If that branch was once attached, once sprouting, once covered in leaves, but is then separated and left aside, it will wither even if the memory of its green days remains. A beautiful past cannot keep it alive if in the present it is already cut off. In the same way, if you once had seasons of zeal, nights of tears before me, and steps of obedience, I cherish all of that. But what I ask is not, what were you like back then, but where are you now? Salvation is not only a point in the past, but a present rhythm of life in which you remain connected and continue to drink from my source and allow your life to be shaped by my hand. When you choose to live as though I am only a beautiful, sacred memory and no longer the one actively leading you, you have stepped away from that flow of life, even if your lips can still speak my name. You may ask, but isn't one act of faith enough? Isn't your grace free? Yes, my grace is a gift no human deserves, and no good work can ever purchase it. You do not have to improve yourself enough for me to love you. You do not have to fix yourself enough for me to accept you. I loved you when you turned your back on me. I opened my arms while you were still indifferent. But remember this, if a gift is never opened and used, it will not transform the life of the one who receives it. A ticket bought at a great price to deliver you from a dangerous place, if kept in your pocket as a keepsake, while you refuse to board the train, will not take you out of danger. My grace is not a charm you wear so you can live however you please without concern. Grace is the door I open, the road I lay before you, the strength I give, so you can step out of what once bound you. If you use that very grace as an excuse to delay change, to tell yourself I will be forgiven anyway, then you have misunderstood the very nature of the gift. I see every moment when you quietly tell yourself, just this one more time, then I will stop. Once this season passes, I will live more seriously. After another busy stretch, I will make time for God. Those later promises may sound harmless, even sincere, because you are not denying me. But my child, they are carving a dangerous habit into your soul, the habit of honoring your own will by delaying mine. Every time you postpone obedience, you teach your heart that my voice can be placed behind your plans, that comfort, convenience, and personal benefit may take priority over my calling. Eventually you will notice that you no longer hear me, clearly not because I stopped speaking, but because you trained yourself to lower the volume of my voice while amplifying all the others. There are people who think that at the final moment, they will easily return, say one "I'm sorry," and everything will be instantly restored. They imagine that a desperate cry in their last hour will compensate for a lifetime of turning away. But look carefully, the heart, like soil, is shaped daily by what it allows to take root. A heart accustomed to brushing aside conviction, clinging to self-will, and placing itself at the center, will not naturally pivot at the final hour unless a deep miracle occurs. I work miracles, yes. I can shatter the hardest fortress. But I also tell you plainly, hardness of heart is not born in a moment. It is nourished by thousands of small choices, thousands of tomorrows, thousands of not yet. Because I love you, I do not want you to gamble with your own soul by endlessly postponing a true yes. My child, ask yourself, if I were to look at your life today, what would I see more clearly? The marks of a soul being shaped by my word, or the grooves of a self-will carefully guarded? I see every area where you have allowed me to touch, and every corner you keep locked away with a sign that reads, "Do not enter." You assume that as long as you still worship, still speak spiritual language, still serve somewhere, those locked corners can wait. But I do not seek a life divided into God's parts and your parts. I am the one who gives you breath. I desire to be Lord of your whole life, not because I crave power, but because only then will your soul be truly protected from dangers you cannot yet see. The areas you guard for yourself feel like safe zones, but they are actually open doors through which deception slips in unnoticed. My child, I speak these things not to sink you into shame or self-condemnation. If my goal were only to expose your faults, I would never have come in the form of my Son to bear your sin on the cross. I speak today because I want you to know the door of return is still open, that the days in your hands right now are opportunities to change direction, not just words, but the trajectory of your life. I want you to understand that obedience is not a burden. It is the path into a peace far deeper than everything you fear losing. When you release what I have told you to release, you do not fall into emptiness. You fall into my arms, where you are embraced, healed, and taught. So at this very moment, I am not asking how you feel. I am asking, are you willing to say a yes more completely than the ones you've given before? Not a yes born of emotion or impulse, but one confirmed each day through small hidden choices. Are you willing to let me lead you into a life where my word is no longer background music, but the rhythm of every step you take? If you long for this, know that I have waited for you for a long time. I have not turned my face away from your stumbles, but neither do I make peace with what is slowly killing your soul. I extend my hand, not to pull you into a prison of rules, but to lead you out of an invisible prison of sin and fear, where you have stayed for far too long. And as you walk with me, you will understand why I must speak with firmness, because true love is never silent when the beloved approaches the edge of danger. Now I want you to understand more deeply the nature of my commands, so that you no longer see them as random demands or moral burdens, but as they truly are, the laws of life, the framework of reality I designed. From the beginning, when I said, "Let there be light," light appeared not because I imposed it forcefully, but because I am the source of all order and harmony. In the same way, when my word comes to your soul, it is not mere sound or language. It is a safe path through a chaotic world. When I tell you to forgive, it is not a moral challenge meant to make you virtuous, but the only way to keep your heart from being poisoned. When I call you to honesty, it is not a harsh standard for judgment, but a safeguard against the traps of deceit that inevitably collapse. Every command I give carries wisdom far deeper than what you can perceive in the moment. You have often separated spiritual life from real life, as though my word belongs only in church services or devotion times, while markets, offices, and everyday conversations must operate under different rules. But my child, I am the one who created the very world you live in. I know what keeps a heart healthy, what keeps a family standing, what keeps a community from falling apart. When I tell you to stay away from deceit, sexual immorality, greed, bitterness, I am not only concerned about my name, I am protecting you from the destruction that these things inevitably bring. You may think you are still fine when you compromise a little, when you keep a pocket of darkness to yourself, but just as a small amount of yeast leavens the whole dough, the things you consider small will eventually spread and touch every corner of your life in ways you never anticipated. I want you to see my word as a path already marked across a mountain range filled with hidden ravines. There are stretches of the path that feel winding and slow, provoking impatience because they do not follow the straight line you desire. There are turns that make no sense to you, detours that seem unnecessary when a broad, flat shortcut lies just ahead. But only I can see what is concealed beneath the fog, loose stones waiting to slip, slopes slick with danger, cliffs masked by wild grass. When I tell you to stop, to turn back, or to take another route, it is because I am leading you away from things that if you saw them fully, you would understand why my urgency is so great. Yet at times you think my words make you miss opportunities, lose your chance, or fall behind others. You see people cutting corners, scheming, pushing their way forward, and still appearing successful, and then you ask, what is the point of keeping God's word? What you do not see is that I do not measure life the way the world does, and I see far beyond the brief moment you call the present. How many times have you harvested months of heaviness and regret simply because you refuse to obey the gentle prompting in your heart, the whisper telling you not to answer harshly in anger, not to send that message, not to sign that agreement, not to take one more step into that ambiguous relationship? And then you wept before me, asking why everything became so tangled. My child, it was you who stepped outside the fence that my word had built around you. I did not design my commands as prison walls meant to restrict you, but as the protective fence around a flock within which is the safe space to run freely. When you climb over it thinking freedom lies outside, you do not see the wolves waiting. I know there are things I ask of you that hurt because obedience often requires letting go of something precious to you, forgiving when the other person has not apologized, stopping a habit that provides momentary comfort, stepping out of a prior relationship into which you invested hope, telling the truth when lying would be far easier. In those moments you feel as if I am taking something away. But remember this, I never remove anything from your hand without intending to place something better, deeper, more enduring in its place. The problem is that you only see the immediate emptiness, while I see the seasons that could be saved if you would trust me. Just like Abraham, who did not understand everything when he offered Isaac, he simply knew that the one who promised is faithful. You may not understand why I ask you to leave this or that, but can you trust that I never ask cruelly or without purpose? You often say, I'm afraid if I obey, I will lose everything. But tell me, what is this? Everything. Reputation, convenience, a false sense of safety, a handful of human approval. Are these truly everything compared to your soul? Micah 7:8 says, though I have fallen, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. I do not fear your weakness. I am not reluctant to lift you when you fall. What grieves me is when you cling to the darkness, defend what I have exposed, and search for every reason to continue living on the margins of my word. The darkness you protect will one day become your prison, while the light you fear facing is the very thing that can heal you. You must understand that every time you choose to ignore my word, you are not simply failing to do something good. You are planting a seed in your heart, a seed that grows familiar with living apart from my presence. At first, your conscience still stirs, still presses, still aches. But if you keep repeating those choices, the voice grows faint, not because I stopped speaking, but because the ears of your heart have adapted to another frequency. And then one day you will notice that you no longer feel conviction, no longer feel the need to repent, no longer sense my word cutting through you. That is not freedom, that is numbness. This is why I call you back to daily obedience, not as a heavy obligation, but as the breath of a living person. You do not breathe because someone commands you to. You breathe because without it you die. Obedience to me is the same. It is how your soul stays alive, soft and sensitive to my voice amid countless others. When you choose forgiveness today, even if the other person does not change, you have chosen to remain in the stream of grace. When you choose truth, even at a cost, you stand with me. When you choose to shut off an unclean piece of content, refuse a harmful invitation, or end a pointless conversation, you keep your heart from drifting farther than you realize. Each small choice, if you persist, becomes a path, and that path, though narrow, will lead you closer to me. I do not promise that the road of obedience will always be easy, but I promise that on that road you will never walk alone. I do not demand perfection in a moment. I invite you to faithfulness in each step. I know there will be times when you fall back, choose ease over sacrifice, or stumble under exhaustion. But if each time you rise and let my word lift you, if you return, if you allow me to correct you, then you are living within the covenant. You are not defined by a single fall, but by the direction you continue to walk. And that direction is revealed not in the words you speak during emotional prayers, but in the quiet decisions you make throughout your day. Let each of those decisions say to me, I belong to you, and you will find that my word no longer feels like a burden, but a pathway into freedom. The obedience I speak of is not merely about outward actions, but about the root of what you love, what you seek, what you treasure. For where your heart leans, your whole life will follow. You can force yourself to do certain good things for a short season, but if your heart still considers your old desires as your true treasure, my word will always feel heavy, like a rigid law pushing against who you really are. I do not want you to live in that exhausting tug of war. I want to transform your very heart so that what I love becomes what you love, and what I hate becomes what you gradually learn to avoid. But this does not happen through a dramatic emotional moment. It forms through small circles of daily obedience. Each time you say yes to me in something seemingly small, you allow me to rewrite the value system inside your heart, reshaping what you consider worthy, beautiful, and good. You often ask, how can my heart truly change so that I don't merely try to keep rules but genuinely desire to please you? My child hearts are not transformed by sudden resolutions, but by habits repeated in my presence. When you come to me in silence, even for a few minutes open, your soul honestly speak to me about your fears, desires, hidden battles, and then humble yourself under my word, letting it penetrate the places you usually avoid. Your heart is being molded. When you choose to forgive once, then again, even while the wound still aches, you are training your heart to release instead of grasp. When you choose to pause and apologize instead of defending your ego, you are learning the language of humility. You cannot do these things by your own strength, but each time you take the first step, my spirit strengthens you. Psalm 119:105 says, Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Notice the lamp shines enough for one step at a time, not the entire journey at once. Often you want me to give you the whole map, every answer, every assurance before you obey. But I give you light step by step so that you learn to trust the one holding the lamp rather than rely on your own need to control. Every morning you choose to sit with me, open my words and say, Show me today's step. You are placing your feet in the orbit of light. Each time you face a decision and ask, which choice reflects the heart of the Father, instead of which is most convenient for me, you allow my word to move from the page into your lived reality. I do not require you to see the whole future, only to be faithful with the light you have been given today. None of your choices are without consequence. Every one of them is carving a pathway deeper inside you. When you repeatedly ignore a small prompt, such as the nudge to pray for someone to stop speaking ill of another, to turn off something unclean, to stay silent instead of entering a pointless argument, you are creating a familiar trail where your heart learns to turn its back on my voice. In contrast, when you repeat small steps of obedience, however clumsy they may seem, you are forming a different path where your heart becomes more and more ready to respond to me. You often think only the big decisions matter and the little things are insignificant, but remember, a mighty river is made of countless small drops of water. A holy life is not built on a few spectacular moments of great victory, but on innumerable quiet yeses. I see the evenings when you are tired and only want to drift into endless entertainment to numb the weight inside, while my spirit gently knocks, inviting you to pause for a few minutes and cast your burdens into my hands. I see the hurried mornings when you rush out the door, leaving behind an empty chair where you and I could have met. I do not keep a ledger of these moments in order to accuse you, but I mention them so you understand that you are unconsciously training your soul where to seek comfort. If day after day you choose the screen, the praise of others, or success, instead of coming to me, and first, your soul will slowly believe that I am the last resort, the one reserved, for when you have no other options. Then when a real storm arrives, you will find it hard to trust me as your first refuge, because you have never practiced living that way. In the same way, in your relationships, every time you choose to silently swallow bitterness instead of bringing it before me, that bitterness will find a place to settle, forming sediment in your heart. It may not show right away, but it will eventually color how you see others, how you react, and how you trust. My call to forgive is not to defend the person who hurt you, but to protect you from being imprisoned by those memories. When you cling to resentment, you are building a wall you think will protect you, but that wall also blocks the living water I long to pour into you. You cannot keep your fist clenched in anger, and at the same time open your hand to receive my comfort. Forgiveness is that act of opening your hand, painful, difficult, but necessary. I know you cannot do it alone, which is why I invite you to bring both your outrage and your decision to forgive into my presence, so that I may do the part you cannot. I also know there are areas where you have fallen so many times that you almost want to give up. You think I've tried to change and failed. Surely, you must be tired of me. Listen to me, my child. I do not grow weary of your returning. My heart aches only when you no longer want to return. If you can still feel sorrow over sin, if you still long to live differently, that is a sign your heart is not completely hardened. Your failures do not push me away. They draw me closer so long as you do not run from me. Draw me closer so long as you do not run from me. The real issue is not how many times you have fallen, but where you run after each fall. Do you run toward me or away from me? I do not expect perfection from you. I look for a truthful heart, one that calls sin. Sin refuses to justify it, and chooses to rise and take my hand again. Yet I must also speak plainly. If you try to walk both lines, holding on to old compromises, while also trying to keep a sense of being close to God, you will remain exhausted, confused, and without peace. There is no abundant life in a divided heart. You cannot drink from a polluted source and still hope to fully enjoy the refreshment of a pure spring. There will come a time when you must choose. Either let me be truly Lord, or continue letting other desires rule. I do not wrestle with your idols for space. I do not shove and push my way into your heart. I knock, I invite, I wait, but in the end, you must be the one to open to decide what may remain and what must leave. My child, I do not say these things to discourage you, but so you understand that obedience is not a handful of moral actions added to a life already crowded with other priorities. Obedience is an internal reordering, placing me where I belong first. When that happens, everything else finds its proper place. Work, family, emotions, dreams, fears, each will be rightly positioned in my light. You will no longer have to strain and force yourself to keep rules, because your heart will have been turned in a new direction. Wherever the heart leans, the feet will follow. And I am calling your heart to turn fully toward me, not halfway, not seasonally, but as a fresh daily surrender. If you say yes to this invitation, you will begin to experience what you have only heard others and describe. A peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that circumstances cannot steal, and a freedom nothing can chain, the fruit of a life walking in the law of life, instead of standing at the edge merely watching. To me, what reveals your true nature is not the words you speak when your heart is stirred, but the choices you repeat on the most ordinary days. A person may proclaim much, shed many tears, and make countless promises in a moment of emotion, but it is the weary mornings, the tired evenings, the unexpected situations that show what you are truly living from. When someone touches your pride, your first reaction says much about where your heart is anchored. When temptation knocks through a thought, a piece of content, or an easy invitation, your immediate response tells me where my word stands in your hierarchy of priorities. I do not say this to make you anxiously scrutinize yourself, but so that you understand faith is not an abstract idea. It is a real path you are walking, leaving footprints each day, whether you realize it or not. Look at those who went before you in Scripture, not to glorify them, but to see the common thread. Noah did not merely hear my warning about the flood. He built the ark day after day for years, despite mockery. Abraham did not only hear the promise of descendants as numerous as the stars. He left home, left his land, and lived as a stranger in the promised land. Daniel did not only believe in theory, he continued to open his windows toward Jerusalem and pray even after the decree was issued. These people were not perfect, they had moments of weakness, but their shared trait was this: they allowed my word to move from ear to foot, from understanding to lifestyle. If you admire their stories but do not recognize that I am calling you to take your own concrete steps in the context of your life, then you have turned those stories into myths to retell rather than mirrors to correct your path. I know there are corners in your heart afraid of deep change because you sense that if you truly let me be Lord, certain things you cherish will have to be placed on the scales. You fear losing someone, losing an opportunity, facing temporary loneliness, having to explain yourself, being misunderstood. I see every one of those fears, and I do not treat them lightly. I do not tell you do not fear in a way that dismisses reality. Instead, I ask you, do you trust your fear more than you trust me? Do you trust the worst-case scenarios your imagination paints more than the words of the one who has gone before you on every road, who entered death itself and shattered it? Every time you let fear decide for you, you hand over your authority to it. But when you say to me, I am trembling, but I will still follow you, you take that authority back and place it in the hands of the only one worthy to hold it. John 1:4-3 says, If anyone loves me, he will keep my word. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. Do you see? Where there is true love, there is attachment. And where there is attachment, my word no longer stands outside like a posted rule, but becomes the rhythm of life within. I do not call you to keep my word like an employee following company policies out of fear of punishment. I invite you to live with me as a child in the house, loving me enough to naturally wish to see everything through the Father's eyes. When you truly love someone, you do not only avoid causing them pain, you delight in what brings them joy. And so it is when your love for me grows, you will find yourself gradually desiring what I desire, and obedience will become joy rather than forced effort. Yet I also know that this love does not grow in a vacuum. It must be nourished. If you give most of your time, thoughts, and emotions to everything else, and offer me only the leftover fragments at the end of the day, how can you expect your love for me to become strong enough to overcome the world's pull, love of any kind. Requires time, attention, and presence to grow. Your relationship with me is no different. I do not require you to become a hermit or withdraw from daily life. I simply ask in the rush of your days, do you give me a real space where you are fully present, or do you meet me only with quick glances while your mind is elsewhere? If you want to hear me clearly, you must create stillness, not only outwardly but inwardly so. My voice is not drowned out. It is in those moments that I will illuminate places you never expected, showing you small steps that, if followed, will lead to great change. The truth is, no matter how you try to avoid it, you cannot remain in the middle ground. Each day, your choices are tilting your life toward one side or the other. Either you are learning to live as though I am the center, or you are training yourself to live as though you are the center. Either your heart grows softer to my word, or it becomes a little thicker with self-protection. There is no neutral state. That is why I speak with urgency, not because I enjoy pressure, but because I see the long road and the consequences of ignoring my first whispers. Many think they are just a little slow, just a little distracted, but they eventually find themselves far from where they ever intended to go, all because each day they drifted slightly from the path I showed them. I know that when you hear these things, you may feel both enlightened and unsettled, wondering, where do I even begin? There's so much to change, I don't know what to do first. My child, I do not place all things on your shoulders at once. I am your guide, not someone shouting directions from a distance. Begin by asking me one simple, sincere question. Lord, what do you want me to do today with what you have spoken? And trust that I will give you something very specific. A phone call, to make an apology, to offer a habit, to stop a moment, to set aside for me. When you honestly act on that one small thing, more light will come. And walking in the light is the only way to avoid darkness, not by trying to predict every future step, but by being faithful with the step before you now. So I call you to step out of the gentle self-deception that hearing is enough. From now on, whenever you hear anything from me, a verse, a prompting, a warning, a word of comfort, ask yourself, how must I respond to this? Do not let what I speak become a collection of beautiful memories, but let them become markers showing where you truly changed course. I walk alongside you, not to grade you, but to take your hand and teach you every step, but I will not walk for you. You must lift your foot, and the moment you lift it in obedience, you will realize that the heaviest burden was never the burden of doing my will, but the burden of all the days spent listening without ever doing. I desire to free you from that weight, so you can walk in the lightness of someone who knows they are in the will of their Father. I want to lift your eyes beyond these brief earthly days, so you can see the true context of every choice you make. If you look only within the boundaries of this short life, you will always feel you still have time, still have chances, and the call to repentance will always be pushed to some vague future day. But your soul is not measured by the calendar, it is measured by eternity. You wake up in the morning rushing to prepare for work plans, meetings, and temporary goals, but how rarely you prepare for the one appointment no one can avoid the day you stand before me. I do not say this to frighten you, but to help you understand that everything you are choosing now is silently shaping how you will appear before me on that day. Not with the roles you play or the masks you wear before people, but with your true essence stripped bare before the light that nothing can hide from. You assume you will have time to fix things at the last minute, that when death draws near, you will easily let go of everything, naturally say, I'm sorry, and I return as though repentance would simply emerge on its own. But my child, do you not remember that a heart does not suddenly become something different in a moment unless it has been trained in that direction beforehand? The heart, like soil, is shaped by what it regularly receives by the seeds, allows to take root. If today, tomorrow, and the days that follow you continue postponing obedience for reasons that sound perfectly reasonable, not yet convenient, not ready after this season, then you are training your heart to believe that my voice can always stand behind every other priority. When the edge of death finally comes, that heart will not turn easily as you imagine. It has been conditioned for a lifetime to place self-will first and to prioritize the visible over the invisible. You must understand this: today's delay is not harmless. It is weaving a pattern inside you. Many people live as if this earthly span is everything, and eternity is just a footnote somewhere in their belief system. They calculate, plan ahead, prepare for old age, for their children, for their possessions, for their reputation. But rarely do they sit down and ask, where will my soul be when all of this passes away? You too are easily swept into that rhythm. You think about 5-year plans, career, progress, income, improvements, complex relationships. But seldom do you pause to consider where you are heading in your relationship with me. When someone's sudden death shakes you, the realization lasts only a moment before you rush back into the same cycle as before. You tell yourself, I will live more meaningfully closer to God, but unless a concrete decision is made, those intentions evaporate like steam on glass. This life is a short hallway leading to a doorway that opens into eternity. Every thought, every choice, every yes or no you give to me is weaving a garment your soul will wear when it passes through that door. On the day you meet me, I will not ask, what impression did you make on the world? How many praised you? What did you accumulate? I will look deep into your heart and ask, what did you do with what I entrusted to you? How did you respond to the love I persistently gave you? In that moment, all the things you used to comfort yourself, comparing with others, blaming circumstances, pointing to those around you, will not stand before the light of truth. For in my presence only what is real remains. I know that when you hear about the day of judgment, you tend to imagine a cold courtroom, a tense atmosphere, and a long list of failures. But my child, the most fearful thing about that day is not that I suddenly punish someone who has loved me with all their heart. It is the unveiling of the truth of a life long accustomed to turning away from the light, while the lips still proclaimed my name. Scripture says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts, because today is the only thing you truly possess. Tomorrow is only an assumption. The future is in my hands, not yours. Every time you push away the light of today into tomorrow, you are saying that you undervalue the very moment I have placed in your hands. You may think, but Lord, aren't you full of mercy? Aren't you patient? Don't you know how weak I am? Yes, I am full of compassion and slow to anger. That is precisely why you still have the chance to read these words, to hear my voice while your heart is not completely closed. I do not desire anyone to perish. I do not rejoice when someone separates themselves from me. But my love does not erase the truth of your choices. I do not force any soul to remain in my presence if it has never truly desired me. Heaven is not a place for those who reluctantly stay with me only to avoid something worse. It is the home of those who have learned to love my ways, who have allowed my word to shape them, who have tasted the sweetness of my presence even while on earth. If now, during this journey, you find my commands heavy, my presence uncomfortable, my reminders bothersome, how do you imagine you would rejoice in an eternity where my will is fully done? Ask yourself, what draws you to me? Do you come because of who I am, or because of what you hope to receive? Are you excited about me because I am the source of life, or because I can solve your immediate problems? If you realize your heart often treats me as an emergency escape rather than someone to love and walk with daily, do not despair. That realization itself is already a spark of light. I do not despise hearts that still carry mixed motives. I heal them. But I can only heal what you are willing to look at honestly and name truthfully, rather than hide behind layers of religious performance. On the day we meet again, what I seek is not a religious resume, but evidence of a real relationship. That relationship is not measured by how many gatherings you attended, but by how often you let me win over your self-will. Not measured by how many verses you can quote, but by how often those verses guided your reactions. Not measured by the spiritual image others attribute to you, but by your honesty in the secret place where only you and I are present. There is no stage, no applause, no roles to play. There is only one question. Have you truly given your life to me? If today your answer is, not completely, Lord, I still hesitate, still fear, still cling to things. But I want to know that I cherish, that I want to. I do not require you to transform yourself overnight. I call you to lay one new brick at a time through new choices. But I must also tell you the truth. If you continue trying to keep yourself in the middle zone, not far enough from me to be considered an outsider, but not close enough to pay the cost, you will lose what is most precious, the life of your soul. Day by day, that in-between state will not remain still. It will quietly slide toward one side, either softening or hardening. Therefore, when I tell you that a day will come when you will stand before me exactly as you are, I do not say it to terrify you, but so you may treasure every today I still give you. Each today is a gift wrapped in my patience. Each today is an opportunity to turn a little more, to say a deeper yes, to release something you have held on to for far too long. You do not know how many todays remain for you, but you know for certain that you have this one. And it is on this very day, in this very moment, that I ask you, where do you want your soul to go? Do you want to come to me as someone who has learned to love my ways, or as someone who knew about me from afar, yet never truly entrusted their life into my hands? I do not impose the answer upon you. I simply place it before you, along with my unchanging love, and wait to see what you will do with it. Eternity is not a final moment in which I suddenly change my opinion of you, but the place where the true condition of your heart, what has been nurtured throughout your life, is revealed in full. Heaven is not a random reward given to those who manage to say a few right words at the right time, nor is it a reluctant refuge for those who never truly wanted me, but merely wished to avoid something worse. Heaven is the home of those who have learned, however imperfectly, to love my ways, of hearts that have allowed me to touch, correct, and purify them. And hell is not the impulsive punishment of an angry deity, but the natural end of a soul that has insisted on living apart from me until that choice has become its very nature. As you hear this, do not look around to evaluate who deserves what. Instead, look inward and ask, in all these passing years, have I truly become the one you move toward, or merely the name you mention when trouble strikes? There are people you consider terrible, harsh, rebellious, openly hostile toward my name. You look at them and comfort yourself. At least I'm not like that. I still attend services, I still pray when I'm sad, I still believe God is real. But my child indifference is not a neutral posture. Lukewarmness is not a softer form of faithfulness. One who deliberately turns their back on me, and one who speaks my name yet lives as if I have no authority over any decision, both are far from me. Their differences are only on the surface. One rebels loudly, the other quietly. One says, I don't need you. The other says, I need you, yet day after day places every other voice above mine. When I look, I am not misled by how you define yourself. I see the true direction your life is heading. Listen to an illustration. My son once gave 10 virgins went out to meet the bridegroom. All of them knew about the announcement. All of them left their homes. All of them held lamps. Outwardly, they were nearly identical, but the difference lay here. Some had prepared oil, others had not. When the bridegroom arrived later than expected, they all grew tired, they all slept. Then came the midnight cry, behold, the bridegroom is here, and in that moment the difference became visible. Lamps without oil cannot be lit by shaking them harder, nor can oil be borrowed at the last second. They went to buy more, but the door had closed. My child, this is not a story meant to make you anxious about whether you have enough good deeds, but to ask, have you allowed me to pour oil into your heart through the years? Have you let me form in you a genuine rhythm of attachment seeking, me in the Word speaking with me throughout your days, letting me direct your choices, or have you only been carrying a beautiful lamp, living on memories of past moments of brightness? You cannot step into eternity by clinging to memories of seasons when you used to be close to God. Memories of a fire do not warm anyone in the cold night. Past spiritual experiences are precious, but they cannot substitute for present abiding. Just as someone who once breathed the pure air of a mountain cannot survive long in a suffocating room by merely recalling that breeze, your soul cannot be sustained by the good old days. I ask you today, right now, what are you choosing, loving, prioritizing? Because those choices speak louder than the stories you tell about the past. You often comfort yourself by saying, God knows my heart. He sees that I still believe. Yes, I know. I see the good intentions you once had, the moments you wanted to change but stepped back. I see your tears when you feel unworthy. I see the journal entries, the half-finished prayers. I do not treat these lightly. But you must understand, the heart is revealed not only by emotions but by the actions you repeat. Someone may be deeply moved by hearing about mercy, yet if afterward they fight to preserve their old way of living, it shows there is still a place inside them that believes their own path is safer than mine. God knows my heart is not a veil to cover endless postponement. It is a reminder that I see clearly. Even the excuses you do not realize are excuses. Hebrews 3:1-5 says, Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Do you see that call is repeated often? Because the gravest danger of the soul is not sin but numbness. A person who sins yet feels sorrow, shame, and still runs to me, still longs to change, that person still has hope. A person who repeats sin yet gradually no longer feels troubled, no longer stirred, no longer desires to come near me, that person is entering a perilous state. And the frightening thing is that hardness does not form overnight. It is the result of many. It's fine many, just this once many. Surely God understands. Imagine soft soil. When a seed falls, it easily takes root. But if people keep stepping on that place day after day, the soil becomes packed and hardened. Then even the best seed struggles to grow. So it is with your heart. Each time the Holy Spirit gently prompts you through a verse, a word of counsel, a situation, and you ignore it, you trample that place, compacting it further. Over time you begin to wonder, why am I no longer moved like before? Why do the things that once brought me to tears now feel ordinary? You may think I have withdrawn, but truly I am still here. It is your heart's soil that has grown hard. When you become aware of that hardness, when you can still sigh, because you no longer feel as soft as before, that itself is a sign that the soil is still moist, not yet fully turned to stone. I specialize in breaking apart rocks that people believe can never be moved. I specialize in reviving hearts that even their owners think have lost the ability to feel. But what I need from you is consent. Consent for me to plow, to dig deep, to uproot the roots you once believed were part of your very identity. True healing always comes with temporary pain, just as a physician must press on an infected wound to draw out the poison. If you only want anesthesia that keeps you from feeling anything but refuse the treatment that addresses the source, the sickness will continue simply silent for a time. You may say, but I'm afraid of major change. I fear facing old wounds, habits that cling to me. I understand. That is why I do not ask you to throw everything wide open in a single day. I take your hand and lead you step by step. Today I ask you, is there a place in your heart you know has hardened, yet you dare bring it to me and say, make this soft again, even if it hurts? Is there a habit you have justified for far too long, but now you have the courage to name? Honestly, as something displeasing to me? Is there someone you have sworn you would never forgive? Yet today you are willing to say, I don't have the strength to forgive. But I want to begin that journey with you. These things may seem small in your eyes, but to me, they are enormous steps, signs that your heart is still responsive to the light. Remember, I speak to you from the vantage point of one who sees the entire story, your first breath, your wandering years, the day you will step into eternity. I know everything you have done, are doing, and will do. If all I wanted was to condemn, I would not have waited this long. But I have waited, and I still wait because I want you to live not only now but forever. That is why I cannot cooperate with the delay that is slowly killing your soul. I must tell you, do not wait for tomorrow. Not because I will change my heart tomorrow, but because your heart will not be the same as it is today. The moment you have now is the gift I place in your hands for you to decide. Will you continue to harden your heart, or will you let it soften before me? I do not remove your freedom to choose, but I urgently invite you to use that freedom to return. And if you do, eternity will no longer be a looming shadow of dread, but the long-awaited reunion between a father and a child who learned to love the Father's ways from the very first steps of life on earth. My beloved child, after all I have spoken to you about the day, you will see me about eternity, about the heart being shaped day by day. Now I want to bend low and ask you a very simple question, one you cannot avoid. What do you truly want for your soul? I am not asking what career you want, where you want to live, what kind of family you hope to build. Those things will all pass. I ask, what kind of soul do you want to become before me? One who allowed the light to seep into every inner fiber, or one who skillfully kept the light outside, refusing to let it break down walls of self-protection? One who learned to love the truth enough to let it overturn even the things you once clung to, or one who only loves the feeling of hearing what is right, but not the cost of living? What is right? You tend to think the decisive moment for your eternal destiny lies in a few special events, a solemn service, a moving altar, call a prayer of acceptance, you once whispered. But, my child, I look deeper. Yes, there are turning points, days of returning moments of sincere confession. I honor and remember them. But alongside those moments, I also watch the very ordinary days, the days you work, cook, clean, raise children, sit in traffic, reply to messages, talk with friends. For it is in those seemingly non-spiritual days that you reveal who you are truly listening to, truly trusting, truly loving. Day after day, you are either training your soul to live with me or training it to live without me. Eternity simply exposes the final outcome of that process. Think of a musical instrument. If left untouched, unadjusted, unused, its sound gradually warps until it can hardly be played. Not because it was punished, but because it has not been used for the purpose it was designed for. Your soul is much the same. You were created to harmonize with me, to walk with me, to find your deepest joy in knowing me and being known by me. When you use your soul for lesser purposes, chasing acclaim, protecting your pride, accumulating what will fade, you force it to live out of alignment with its original design. The farther it strays from its true purpose, the harder it becomes for it to respond to my voice. That is why I urgently call you back, not because I need more people with me, but because I see your soul slowly deforming while it was created to shine in my light. You may say, but I am weak. I have lived half-heartedly too long. I've grown used to compromise. How can I ever become the person you describe? Listen to me. My child, I never asked you to turn yourself into a saint before coming near me. If you could transform yourself through discipline and resolve, I would not have needed to shed my blood. What I am inviting you into is not a self-improvement project, but surrender the willingness to place yourself in my hands so I can do the work you cannot do. When you say, Lord, I have lived this way for so long and I see it is destroying my soul. I cannot free myself, but I do not want to continue. Begin again in me, that is when the doorway of miracles opens. I will not break a bruised reed or snuff out a smoldering wick. I never cast away a child who returns, no matter how torn, no matter how stained. But I will not stroke your chains lovingly, so you can continue clinging to what enslaves you. My love is both tender and fierce tender toward your true self, but fierce against anything that harms you. That is why when I touch the places you do not want anyone to touch, you may feel pain exposure. Do not assume I am rejecting you. In fact, that is the very moment I am proving that you belong to me, for the Father disciplines the one he loves. What is truly terrifying is not when I correct you, but when I let you go without a word. I want you to understand that there is no spiritual life in one drawer and ordinary life in another. There is no preparing for heaven with a few hours of worship while preparing for hell with a week of living by your own will. Everything merges into one current. You cannot hoist your sail to my wind while tying your boat to the stakes of the world. At some point you must choose. I do not push you to choose in panic. I call you to choose with a sober mind and honest heart in the light of truth. Not choosing me fully is already a choice. Therefore today, right here, I invite you to do something that may seem very small, yet is the beginning of an entirely new direction. Tell me, in your own words, that you no longer want to be only a hearer. Tell me that specific place you know I have been stirring for a long time, but you keep avoiding. Offer to me that relationship, that habit, that fear, that dream, and say, Lord, be Lord here. You do not need to wait until you are perfectly ready. It is precisely when you step out while still trembling that you show you truly trust me. I will not let you walk alone. I will give you small steps, just enough light and fresh grace for each new day. Then you will begin to see little by little, day after day, that a soul once heavy and hardened starts to soften, learning to rejoice in what pleases me, to grieve when it saddens me, and to run to me, not only when there is a problem, but simply because you love my presence. On that day, the thought of meeting me will no longer be a vague, haunting fear, but the destination your heart longs for. You will not come trembling like a stranger entering a courtroom, but step forward like a child coming home. And I will look at you not as someone who merely heard about me from afar, but as one who allowed my word to mold them into a new life. My child, I have set before you two paths, a wide one, easy to walk, that indulges your own will, yet slowly leads away from me, and a narrow one, sometimes rough and steep, but with me walking beside you and leading you into life. I have not hidden from you that the narrow path has a cost, but I have also not hidden that the wide path carries a far more terrible price. The choice is yours. I do not force you, but I plead with you. Today, if you hear my voice, do not harden your heart any longer. Answer not only with emotion, but with a real decision. From now on, I want to walk with you. And when you say this, heaven does not remain silent. I, the one who loved you before you ever knew my name, will rise, draw near, take your hand, and begin to lead you on the road I have longed to see you walk for so very long. Now I want to speak to you about something very hidden yet profoundly serious, the masters that quietly reign in your heart alongside me, and at times even above me. You tend to think of idols as something crude and obvious, carved images, pagan rituals, things you would never touch. But the idols of your time do not always have such recognizable forms. Often they appear quite beautiful. A relationship you fear losing so much that you are willing to disobey me to keep it. A dream of recognition and reputation for which you are willing to distort truth. A sense of financial security for which you let worry and ambition rule instead of trusting me. They do not call themselves idols, but you can recognize them with a simple test. Whatever you are unwilling to let me touch is already acting as master over part of your life. You still say I have only one God, yet I see how often you are willing to trade obedience in order to preserve something else. When my word collides with your interests, your feelings, your need for safety, which one wins? Who has the authority to say, "This time there will be no exception"? There you will see where my true place is in your heart. I do not say this to diminish the value of the blessings I have given you. Family, work, talents, relationships, they are all good gifts. But when a gift is placed in the position reserved only for the giver, it becomes a chain. That is why I said no one can serve two masters. It is not because I am unwilling to share, but because your soul was not created to be pulled apart by multiple centers of authority at once. It will tear. You often soothe yourself by saying, "God knows my heart. I still love him. I am just weak. I just have many things to handle." Yes, I know your heart. I know you genuinely have affection for me, that you treasure the moments when I touch you, that you do not wish to rebel openly. But my child love that never finds its way into your priorities will eventually be swallowed up by whatever actually occupies them. You may say I love you, but if day after day you give the best of your time, focus, and energy to other things and offer me only the leftovers, then no matter how good your intentions, your heart is being trained to believe that I am not the most important. A child may say they love their parents, but if every major decision consistently elevates friends, public opinion, and self over them, that love is slowly dissolving into a vague concept. I want you to dare to ask yourself honestly, what is that one thing which, if I asked you to lay it down right now, would make you feel as if you had lost your whole world? Who is that person? Which plan, which habit, which image of yourself I am? Not immediately asking you to sever everything in order to prove your loyalty, but I want you to recognize them, because the things you cannot bear to lose are often the very places from which you draw your sense of value, safety, and purpose. As long as those things stand beside me on the throne of your heart, it will be very difficult for you to obey me fully. Whenever my word touches them, your first reflex will be to defend yourself rather than to listen. I see that there are areas you surrender to me easily, those that do not touch the deepest core of yourself. You are willing to serve, to give, to work hard, to do good, but when I reach toward a hidden relationship, a proud mindset, a goal you have labeled, the reason I live, you immediately raise walls. You begin to reason, justify, gather evidence to prove it's fine, surely God understands. When light shines in, instead of opening the door, you pull the curtains closed. Little by little, the walls inside you grow thicker, and eventually you no longer remember that there was once a room behind them meant for me. Remember that I do not wish to take real joy from you. I want to rescue you from false joys that are deceiving your heart. Joy that depends on what people think of you is a prison. One critical remark and your inner world collapses. Joy built on what you possess is a fragile raft. One unexpected storm, and you are plunged into anxiety. Joy rooted in romantic feelings or the sense of being needed and noticed is a blaze that flares up and then dies out, leaving smoke in your chest. I do not dismiss these longings to be loved, to be seen, to be safe, for I am the one who placed the need to belong within you. But I want you to see that no earthly master can carry the weight of these deepest needs. When you demand that a person, a relationship, or a job do what only I can do, you end up disappointed and you crush them under a burden they were never meant to bear. Because I love you, I will not remain silent before the idols you cradle in your heart. I will use my word, circumstances, and the moments when you hit the ceiling to show you just how fragile the things you cling to really are. Not to shame you, but to open your eyes. Sometimes, I allow a door you greatly desire to remain shut, not because I enjoy seeing you hurt, but because I see that if you walked through it, that door would swallow your soul. Sometimes I allow that polished image of yourself you have carefully built to crack, so you stop leaning on a self-painted holiness and return to relying on true grace. Sometimes I allow you to come face to face with your own limits in sin, so you will abandon the illusion that trying harder is enough and begin to learn how to kneel as someone who truly needs to be rescued. But I also know that the enemy takes advantage of those very moments when you hit the ceiling to whisper into your ear that you are ruined, that you can never become the person I desire you to be, that it is better to simply get through life and stop expecting anything more. It wants to turn the light of exposure into the darkness of condemnation, but I use light to heal. The difference lies here: when I reveal an idol, I always accompany it with an invitation. Give it to me. Let me take that place. Let me be the one you look to for safety, worth, and meaning. I do not only tell you to let go, I tell you to step in, lean on me, receive. I remove from your hand a rusted nail, so I may place into it a hand pierced for your sake. Therefore today I am not asking you to shatter every idol at once. I am simply asking you this: are you willing to let me begin naming them with you? Are you willing to sit quietly before me and pray a simple yet serious prayer? Lord, please show me what is sitting on the throne that rightfully belongs only to you. If you are brave enough to pray that, know that I will answer, not with thunderous voices, but with small lights, a verse that suddenly strikes deeply, an uneasiness in your spirit when you take a step towards something that is not from me. A conversation that unexpectedly exposes a blind spot you never noticed. And when that light comes, what I desire from you is not perfection, but an honest response. Yes, I see it now. I place this where it does not belong. Please help me lower it and put you back in your rightful place. You cannot cling to every idol and at the same time experience the freedom I purchased for you with my blood. Every time you agree to let me remove something from the throne, the space for me to reveal myself in you expands. Every false master dethroned will open the way for a new measure of peace you have never tasted before. It is not an easy journey, but it is the only one that frees your soul from inner division, exhaustion, and anxiety, leading you into the simplicity and serenity of a heart with only one Lord. And in that journey you will understand more deeply what salvation truly means, not merely escaping punishment, but being liberated from every chain that keeps you from loving me wholeheartedly. In spiritual life, there is no neutral ground. Every time you do not respond to my voice, you are not standing still. You are unconsciously granting more power to another master within you. When you indulge desire, you offer it obedience, and repeated obedience becomes a chain. When you let financial worry dictate every decision, you bow before mammon, giving it a seat that belongs only to me. When you let human approval matter more than my gaze, you hand over to the praise and criticism of others the right to define who you are. Gradually, these masters not only steal space, but also direct your thoughts, emotions, and choices. I see it clearly, and I grieve for you, because you were not born to be a slave. You were created to walk this earth as one who belongs to the light, free in me, unbowed by any invisible yoke. Look back at the people of Israel in the wilderness. They witnessed mighty miracles. The sea split open, manna rained down from heaven, a pillar of cloud and fire guided them. Yet with only a brief moment of impatience, they gathered gold, fashioned a calf, and called it the God who brought us out of Egypt. They did not think they were betraying me. They merely wanted something visible to hold on to. But in my eyes, it was a replacement, putting something made by their own hands into the place that belonged only to me. Today, you do not cast golden statues, but you easily create your own invisible calves, an idealized self-image, a dream of success, a person you depend on. You polish it, protect it, fear losing it, avoid my touch upon it. You even label it God's plan for my life, though you have never truly asked me. My child, anything that refuses to stand under my authority yet is guarded by you at all cost. That is a form of worship. And misplaced worship always harms your soul, even when it looks reasonable on the outside. You often think that as long as you still pray, still serve, still participate in spiritual activities, those other masters will somehow remain harmless. But my child, it is precisely that division that is exhausting you. You want to keep your heart for me, yet at the same time satisfy every demand of the flesh, the world, and the enemy. The result is that you have no peace anywhere. When you come to me, you feel guilty for what you have not let go. When you return to those other things, you feel empty because you know you are resisting the quiet call within. A person cannot pull a boat in two directions and expect it to move straight. That is why I said no one can serve two masters. It is not merely a command, it is a description of reality. Your soul cannot endure long-term fragmentation. Either I will be Lord, or something else will climb into that position. When you repeatedly choose what goes against what I have clearly spoken at, first you hesitate and feel the wrongness, but gradually you begin to think, it's not that bad. That is the moment when the chains tighten without you noticing. A harmful habit does not appear in one night. It comes from many small choices, many just this once, many only a little more. An unhealthy attachment in a relationship doesn't destroy you instantly. It grows through each time you ignore the gentle inner whisper, stop. Likewise, letting money, achievement, or status sit on the throne of your heart does not happen in a day. It is forged through years of measuring value by numbers and applause instead of my gaze. All these things gather together to turn you into a servant of what you thought you controlled, when in reality they were controlling you. My child, I do not expose these false masters to make you despise yourself, but so that you may understand the root of the exhaustion, anxiety, and instability you are carrying. You say you lack faith, lack peace, but often the real issue is not simply weakness or shortage. It is that your loyalty is divided. When you belong wholly to me, your heart may still face storms, yet you will know firmly what your anchor is. But when you try to cling to me and to something else at the same time, any small disturbance affecting that idol, a criticism, a failure, a financial shift, a sign of instability in a relationship, throws you into fear, because you have placed too much of your identity and weight upon it. But if I am truly your Lord, such things may sadden you, may make you weep, but they cannot define who you are, nor can they steal the foundation of your soul. So when I say that I am jealous, it is not because I lack anything. It is because I know that no other master loves you as I do, understands you as I do, or died for you as I did. My jealousy is the jealousy of a faithful husband who sees the one he loves being deceived by cruel lovers who only intend to use and abandon. When I say you shall have no other gods before me, it is not the decree of a tyrant, but the protection of the one who knows that every other god will ultimately crush your heart. Pride will abandon you when you fall. Money will abandon you when your eyes close. Reputation will abandon you when people forget your name. Even those you love most cannot accompany you through the doorway of death. Only I alone, am the one who will never leave you in this temporary life or in eternity. Therefore, when I call you to dethrone every false master, I am opening for you a path back to the simplicity and wholeness of a heart with only one Lord. And there in that place you will find the rest you have long sought, in many other things yet never touched. I want you to understand that these other masters do not merely dwell in your heart as vague ideas. They carve actual pathways, tangible grooves upon your soul. Each time you bow to them, by indulging a desire you know contradicts my word, by placing a fear above trust, by allowing a human gaze to determine your worth, you are signing an invisible contract. You don't write it on paper. You sign with your obedience. and every contract makes demands. Lust demands more than the last time to feel satisfied. Fear demands more control, more calculations, so you may feel secure. Greed demands that you sacrifice a bit more integrity, more time, more relationships, anything to gain the number you're chasing. And I watch you being pressed into the shape of these masters, though you were created in mine. That is why I cannot silently watch you live normally without speaking. Have you noticed that every time you choose what contradicts my word, your soul is never truly at rest? For a moment you may feel pleased, relieved, or temporarily safe from a fear. But deep inside, a tiny fracture forms. You feel the need to hide, to justify, to speak to yourself with sentences such as, "Everyone does this." Times are different now, God understands. These sentences do not truly soothe you. They merely dull the sound of conscience so you can continue doing what you know is wrong without facing the discomfort. This is how bondage operates, not with visible chains, but with repeated patterns of self-explanation that make you believe you have no other choice. But my child, at that very point, I want to break the lie. You always have another choice, as long as I am still speaking to you. As long as my voice can still touch your heart, you have not been bound beyond the possibility of returning. The enemy wants you to think you have gone too far, sunk too deep, belong to the other master now with no way back. It wants you to forget that I am the one who broke the chains of Egypt for my people, who opened prison doors for those who thought they would die in darkness. It wants you to forget that on the cross my son bore not only the punishment of your sin, but also the power that enslaves. When he said it is finished, it was a declaration that no chain can hold you if you agree to let me free you. The issue is never whether I have the power, but whether you are willing to turn your back on the old master. I know that turning away often feels like tearing a piece of your own flesh, because many of these things have become so intertwined with your identity that losing them feels like losing yourself. You have defined yourself by success roles, certain relationships. When I tell you, place it all into my hands, you are not merely afraid of losing what you love, you are afraid of losing the version of yourself you have built. But my child, who is this self you are protecting? Is it the self shaped by wounds, by people's opinions, by social pressures, by fear of abandonment, or the new self I intended for you in my son? If you cling to the version built on sand, you will always have to defend it, polish it, and repair it every time someone touches it. You will exhaust yourself. I do not want that for you. I want you to stand upon the rock where your identity is not defined by what you gain or lose, but by what I have spoken. You are my beloved child in whom I delight. To enter that freedom, you must do more than remove a few bad habits. You must break the invisible contracts you have signed. That begins in the secret place, where you honestly name before me each master that has held authority in your life, not to condemn yourself, but as one who stands before me and says, Lord, I have allowed fear of finances to rule me. I have allowed the opinions of others to outweigh your gaze. I have allowed lust, pride, laziness, comparison to sit on the throne that belongs only to you. I no longer want to serve them. When you confess this, you are tearing up the invisible agreement you have lived under and handing it to me. 1 John 1:9 says that if we confess our sins, I am faithful and just to forgive and to cleanse from all unrighteousness. Forgiveness removes the guilt, cleansing dismantles the chains. I do both, so long as you no longer hide. But confession is only the beginning. After that, there will be very specific steps I will lead you into to redirect the direction of your obedience. I may urge you to cut off a connection you know is pulling you away from me, even while your emotions scream in protest. I may call you to reorder your use of time, to prioritize moments of stillness with me, instead of drowning yourself in things that numb your heart. I may ask you to begin practicing generosity, learning to give freely in order to break Mammon's grip on your soul. I may lead you to speak out a truth you have hidden for a long time, even if it costs you a little of the image you worked so hard to keep. Each such step will feel to you like removing a chain. At first, the skin that had been bound will sting and burn. But as time passes, it will heal, and you will begin to feel the weight lifting from your soul. My child, I do not expect you to walk these steps alone. When I call someone out of bondage, I go before and behind them. I know temptations will return. I know old voices will echo again. Just as Israel in the wilderness sometimes remembers the pots of meat and loaves of bread while forgetting the whips and chains, you too will be tempted by memories of sinful pleasure. When that happens, I am neither surprised nor quick to discard you. I will remind you not only of the bitterness of the old chains, but also of the sweetness of the new manna, the water flowing from the rock. I will use my word, my presence, and my people to lift you up when you feel like going back. But you must cooperate. Do not romanticize the past. Do not pour oil on the fire of desire by staying close to temptation. Distance yourself, not because you are more moral than others, but because you know you are weak and you value your new freedom. As you begin dethroning these other masters, there will be those who do not understand you. Some will think you are too much extreme old-fashioned. Some will say God is merciful. You don't need to be so strict. Sometimes even those who bear my name will tell you not to overdo it. My child, in such moments, remember that your standard is not comfort but my gaze. You are not changing to impress anyone. You are changing because you desire one Lord alone. And I see every quiet sacrifice, every choice against the crowd, every moment you choose to lose a little now to remain faithful. None of it is wasted. It accumulates into something far more precious than earthly praise, a heart no longer divided. What I desire for you is not merely a long list of things you no longer do, but a life increasingly filled with the fruit of freedom, peace, that is not easily shaken, joy, not tossed by circumstances, love, not suffocated by jealousy or suspicion. When I alone am Lord, you no longer need to guard my throne. You simply hide yourself beneath the shadow of my wings. Then work, family, money, relationships no longer function as masters, but return to their rightful place. Good gifts you can steward with me, for me, and in me. You will learn to enjoy them without clinging to them, to receive them gladly, and release them willingly whenever I call. This is the freedom no idol can give you, but only I, the one who bought you with my own life, can lead you into. Therefore today, I call you not only to recognize the false masters, but to begin returning the throne of your heart. Do not wait until you are perfectly ready, for that day will never come. Come to me as you are entangled, conflicted, layered. Say to me, I want only one Lord, you. I don't know where to begin, but I don't want a divided heart anymore. Even if your voice trembles, I hear it clearly. And from that moment, I begin a deep work within you, a work of liberation, renewal, restoration, so that layer by layer your soul may be loosened from every chain and learn again the posture of a free child. Right now, I want to bring your eyes back to the beginning of everything, the cross, and my heart for you. For if you hear only warnings without seeing the love behind them, you will misunderstand me as one who only demands, only points out faults, only focuses on obedience. No, my child, before any command was spoken, there was a love that pursued you, a sacrifice that went ahead of you, a stream of blood poured out when you were not even thinking of me. Before you could ever say, yes, I had already said, I want you. Before you could take one small step toward me, I had crossed the infinite distance between heaven and earth to come near you through my Son. If you miss this, obedience will always feel like a price you pay to keep my love instead of the natural response of a heart that realizes it has been loved beyond measure. Look at my Son on the cross. He did not die for those who obeyed perfectly. who lived spotless lives, who never resisted. He died for those who turned their backs, who denied, who believed they did not need God, who lived half-heartedly, who burned hot then cold those like you. He bore on his body every moment of your disobedience, every compromise, every choice through which you signed contracts with other masters. He endured the death your sin deserved, so that you could return to me without being crushed beneath the weight of judgment. Grace is not a pretty concept to sing about. It is a serious reality purchased at the highest cost the universe has ever known. Every time you treat grace lightly, using it as an excuse to delay change, you forget that in order for you even to delay, someone once refused to delay, walking up that wooden beam for your sake. I did not save you by handing you a list of tasks and watching from afar to see how well you perform. I saved you by drawing you into a living relationship with myself. Ephesians 2 says you are saved by grace through faith, not by works so no one can boast, but it also says you were created in Christ Jesus for good works that I prepared beforehand for you to walk in. What does this mean? It means you cannot pile up good deeds to buy my approval. Yet if you truly abide in me, your life will naturally begin to bear fruit that reflects my own character. Faith is not the ticket that lets you stay still. It is the bridge through which I enter and transform you from within, and from that transformation will flow new actions. James said, "Faith without works is dead." I do not say this to deny grace, but so that you will not deceive yourself with a faith that lives only on your lips. I know you fear words like produce fruit or change, because you have tried many times and ended up disappointed in yourself. You look at your failures, at habits still unbroken, and conclude quietly, maybe this is the best I can ever be. I can't become the obedient person God wants. My child, I am not calling you to become a flawless version of yourself overnight. I know the dust with which I formed you. I know the wounds, memories, family patterns, social forces that have shaped your mind. I am not naive, demanding something beyond your capacity in an instant. But neither will I lie to you and say you can keep living by the old ways while expecting the full fruit of the new. I came to give you a new heart and place a new spirit within you, so that what I require is also what I empower. The issue is not whether you have enough strength, but whether you will open your heart for me to work, or whether you will keep control and decide for yourself how much you are willing to change. Imagine your life as a house. There are rooms you are ready to invite me into: the room of worship, the room of service, a few corners you label as spiritual. In those places you are willing to tidy up, decorate, even let me rearrange things. But there are also rooms whose doors stay tightly shut, the room of unhealed memories, the room of secret habits, the room of ambitions you don't want anyone to touch, the room of fears, the room of stories you hide. You still want me in your house, but only as a guest who is allowed to walk through certain areas. Yet, my child, I did not come to be a guest. Guests are allowed only to admire, but the owner of the house has the right to arrange. If you only invite me as an honored guest, you will never truly experience the full transforming power you hear others testify about. Deep change begins when you dare to hand me the master key, when you say, "Lord, I don't want to keep any room locked anymore. Please come in, even though I know dust, mustiness, and garbage will be dragged into the light. I am not disgusted when I step into those rooms. I am the one who knelt down to wash the disciples' feet coated with road dust, calloused perhaps, carrying a smell, so that you would know there is no place in your life so filthy that I am unwilling to touch it. The only thing I will never do is compromise with what is killing you. I will not throw a beautiful cloth over a pile of trash and say, everything is fine. I will lift the cloth, pick things up one by one, show you where they came from, what they are destroying, and then together we will decide keep or discard. That process may make you feel exposed, ashamed, and raw. But the consequence of doing nothing is far worse. The house will go on molding, vermin will multiply, and over time you will no longer be able to tell the stench of your own house from the air outside. My grace is not just a piece of paper canceling the debt of your past. It is also the source of strength for your present. I do not only forgive what you have done, I want to transform what keeps pushing you to do those things again. But grace will never become alive to you if you only use it as a reduction of sentence and then return to the same prison. When you truly come to me and say, I am tired, I don't want to carry your name while living as if I don't have you anymore. My grace will move like a mighty river, beginning to cleanse, to heal, to tear down, and to rebuild. There will be days when you feel as if everything inside you is being torn apart like a construction site under heavy work. Do not be afraid. I do not demolish in order to abandon. I demolish in order to rebuild according to the original blueprint I held in my heart when I created you. The obedience I call you to is not a suffocating garment thrown over you until you can no longer breathe. It is a new garment made to fit the true stature of who you are when you are freed from every shackle. Sin has twisted you, bent you over, shrunk, and distorted you. I came to raise you upright so that you might walk in the dignity of one who is called my beloved child. Every time you choose to follow my word, even in the smallest matter, you are practicing that posture again. Each such choice is a declaration, I am no longer a slave, I am a child of God. Even when feelings, memories, and temptations pull you backward, these daily acts of obedience will gradually retrain your soul, teaching it that truth is stronger than lies, that light is stronger than darkness. Therefore, I do not come to you today to place another religious burden on your shoulders. I come to lift off the false burden you have carried for so long, the burden of trying to be good enough, worthy enough, up to people's expectations, while deep inside you know you cannot manage it. I invite you to exchange burdens. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light, because it does not lay upon you the task of saving yourself. It invites you to walk beside me, to learn to see everything through my eyes, to hand over each fear and each decision into my care. I do not promise you a path without trials. I promise that on that path you will never have to walk alone. I do not promise you will never stumble. I promise that every time you turn back and cry out, I will take your hand, lift you up, brush the dust from your clothes, and set your feet straight again, so long as you no longer make peace with other masters. The salvation I give you is not a reward for those who are strong enough, good enough, obedient enough. It is a covenant I have signed in the blood of my Son with those who are willing to relinquish their own throne and let me be Lord. You do not need to prove yourself worthy to be loved. You are only invited to prove that you truly believe by allowing that love to change the way you live. If you agree, if in your heart there is even a whisper that says, I want this, Lord, then my child, now, I want to speak to you about something many people misunderstand, how I see you while you are in the middle of being transformed. Many times you think I am pleased with you only when you no longer stumble, no longer feel weak, no longer have chaos inside. You imagine that I smile only when you succeed and turn my face away when you fail. That is why every time you lose a battle with sin or fall back into an old pattern, you are not only grieved by what you did, but deep within you begin to believe that I love you less, that I am disappointed, that I have grown cold. My child, that lie has driven countless hearts away from me. I do not agree with your sin, but I do not withdraw my love every time you fall. I do not applaud what is wrong, but neither do I shut my door because you did not change quickly enough to match the pace you or others have demanded of you. What I look for is not a flawless record, but a heart that refuses to give up on coming back to me, a heart willing to let me keep shaping it, even if that means starting over many times. Remember Peter, the impulsive disciple, quick to speak, slow to live it out. He once loudly promised that he would follow my son to the very end, even to prison and to death. And yet in a single night, under the scrutiny of a few strangers, he denied him 3 times, even cursing to insist that he had never known him. If I had looked at him the way you often look at yourself, gathering up only the most painful failures to define the whole person, the story would have ended in despair. But no. After my son rose again, he went looking for the very one who denied him, not to shame him, but to restore him. By the charcoal fire on the shore, he did not ask, "Why did you betray me?" but "Do you love me?" Because what I wanted to touch was not the memory of sin to crush him under it, but the heart still aching with sorrow. When he answered, "Lord, you know that I love you," though that love was still immature and trembling, I received it and made it the foundation for an entirely new life. My beloved child, I tell you these things so that you may know every time you fall, if you bring that fall into the light before me, it can become the starting point of a deeper transformation. The issue is not how many times you have fallen, but what you choose to do with each fall. If you let them become excuses to run from me, to run from community, to run from the word, to run from every reminder, those wounds will fester in the dark. But if you bring them before me, even with trembling hands, tearful eyes, and a heart full of shame, I will use the very places you consider the worst to teach you about mercy, to break layers of pride you never noticed, and to make you gentler toward others when they stumble. One who has been forgiven much, lifted up from very low places, will, if they remain in me, become someone who can patiently walk with heavy hearts. In this way, your failures, when surrendered to me, will no longer be the last dark chapter, but the opening pages of a redemption story. I do not desire to work only in the secret place between you and me. I also want to teach you how to walk in relationship with others. Many of my children want healing, want freedom, yet choose a solitary path. I'll just deal with it with God. I don't need anyone to know. I don't need anyone to walk with me. You fear being judged, misunderstood, exposed in your weaknesses, the ones you have hidden so carefully. I understand that fear, but I also want you to know that it is within my body among people I am reshaping, that you learn what it means to bear with one another, forgive one another, support each other, and carry each other's burdens. I do not call you into the community to be crucified again, but so you will not have to battle alone. Advice, intercession, hugs, shared tears. These are channels through which I pour strength into you. If you close your heart to all of them, you unknowingly shut out many streams of grace I intend to send into your life. I know there are people who have hurt you in my name, judgmental words, harsh looks, hypocritical attitudes that made you distrust spiritual relationships. I do not deny any of it. I see it all and I grieve with you. But do not let the fault of a few define my heart, nor let disappointment push you away from the people I have prepared to lift you up. In every generation I have humble hearts, weak like you, yet willing to love with the grace they have received. I want to place you among them, not to tear you apart, but to teach you again the language of trust and authenticity. A branch cannot bear fruit if cut off from the vine, and my vine is expressed through the community of those who belong to me. The deep transformation you long for rarely happens while you stand outside watching guarded. When I call you into new life, I do not invite you into a list of burdensome tasks, but into a rhythm, receive and respond. Every day you receive from me fresh forgiveness, fresh warmth, fresh reminders, fresh strength. And from what you receive, you respond through concrete choices, through kindness to those around you, through saying no to what I have shown you, leads to death, through saying yes to small invitations that seem insignificant. I do not expect you to suddenly perform great deeds in the eyes of the world. I ask you to be faithful in the ordinary choices that reveal a heart being renewed. One apology instead of silence. One moment of silence instead of an impulsive reaction. One honest decision even when it costs you. One pause to pray rather than letting fear lead. These things in my eyes are worth more than loud promises that fade quickly. My child, I also want you to stop comparing your journey to the journeys of others. You see some people changing quickly, bearing visible and beautiful fruit. You look at yourself and see 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 season of zeal followed by days of coldness, and you conclude, perhaps God is doing less in me. But every heart is a different field with different histories, wounds, soil layers. My work for you is as personal as you are. Some bitter roots must be pulled out more deeply. Some strongholds of thought must be dismantled more slowly. Some wounds must heal fully before new things can be built. Do not measure my faithfulness by the lack of outward fruit. I am working even quietly in the nights you cannot sleep, in the moments you cry without understanding why, in conversations that strike a hidden chord. What I ask of you in this season is not self-evaluation, but faithfulness to each small light I give you. You do not need to measure your progress in percentages. You only need to ask, today did I respond to what you nudged? If you said yes, in even one small thing, rejoice in me, for that is evidence of life. If you said no, do not run away. Come to me immediately, name it for what it is, so that I may not only forgive you, but also show you a different way for next time. Transformation is not a straight upward line. It curves, rises, dips, and yet the overall direction is toward the light. I look in that direction, not at every bump along the way. So when I speak to you about a life transformed by grace, I am not painting the picture of a person without weakness. I am painting the picture of a person who no longer hides their weakness from me, no longer lets it rule them, but brings it to me in trust. I do not ask you to become strong so that you may be worthy to remain close to me. I invite you to draw near as a child, weak but clinging, stumbling but returning, afraid but choosing to listen to the Father. And I promise you, if you remain in me, if you do not give up returning, I will shape you little by little. One day you will look back and marvel that the things which once chained you no longer hold you as before, not because you disciplined yourself well, but because I faithfully completed what I began. You need only not withdraw from my hands. The rest you may entrust to me. I want to return to something your heart has wondered many times, but never dared to put into words. If everything is by grace, if I loved you first and accepted you in Christ, why do I emphasize obedience, change, and fruit? You fear that speaking too much about work will lead you into trying to save yourself. But if you speak only of grace, without letting grace touch your living, you fear falling into apathy. My child, I want you to understand this clearly. Obedience is not the price you pay to earn my love. It is the living proof that you have truly received it. Just as a tree does not bear fruit in order to become alive, but because it is alive, your obedience is not the ticket into my kingdom. It is the inevitable outcome of truly belonging to me. If you say you believe, receive, and belong, yet year after year nothing in the direction of your heart changes, then the issue is not that you lack effort, but whether you have truly allowed me to be Lord at all. My child, I do not measure you by perfection. I look at the direction in which your soul turns. A true compass may tremble and waver, yet its needle always returns to the north. So it is with you. You may have weak days, confused days, even days when you fall, but if deep within the needle of your heart still turns toward me, still desires what pleases me, I see that, and I delight to keep leading you. In contrast, a counterfeit compass can paint a perfectly straight arrow, yet it never responds to the true magnetic field. It always points wherever it was drawn, no matter where it is placed. That is the picture of a life with only religious appearance, repeating spiritual language, but unmoved inside by my voice. I am not impressed by the outer shell. I value even the smallest inward movement toward me. A single honest sigh, a short but sincere prayer, a tiny choice that goes against the flesh. Each is the sign of a living soul whose needle still responds to my pull. I do not transform you merely for your own sake, but also for the sake of the souls I long to touch through you. You think your story revolves only around you and me, but in my design you are placed within a network of people, generations, and paths you cannot fully see. When I heal the deep wounds within you, I am preparing you to comfort those who carry similar wounds. When I break chains of sin you once believed impossible to escape, I am writing a living testimony for those who will one day despair in the same bondage you face now. When I teach you to walk free from the opinions of others, I am shaping you into a place of refuge for those suffocated by the pressure to be acceptable. I do not wait until you are flawless to use you. Even now, in the middle of your unfinished places, I can use your honesty, your softness, your clumsy but sincere steps to encourage others. But I will not hide from you that you cannot become a clear channel if you cling to the things I call you to release. A stream that receives fresh water from the source, but also lets debris accumulate without being cleared, will inevitably grow murky. Many of my children long to be used, long for their words to carry weight, yet refuse to let me touch the most private corners of their lives. They want my power, but do not want my cleansing. They want more grace, but not the removal of what burdens them. My word to you is this: I purify not to take something beautiful from you, but so the living water I pour into you can flow out unclouded, bringing refreshment to all who drink from it. My beloved, do not think I delight only when you do big things for me. I delight when you live faithfully with what I place in your hands right where you stand. I delight when you choose truth in an atmosphere filled with deceit. I delight when you extend patience to a difficult family member instead of speaking bitterly. I delight when you refuse to join in gossip, even if it makes you seem different. I delight when you pause to uplift someone with a message or a prayer, rather than simply scrolling past endless streams of noise. These acts may never be acknowledged by anyone else, but I see them and I remember. They are the small stones that build a life that reflects me. You say you want to love me, to live for me, to not waste my grace. Then today, right now, begin with this question. With what I have heard and known, what is my next step of obedience? I am not asking for a long list. I am asking for one concrete thing. It may be a hidden sin I have nudged you about many times, and today is the day you choose to bring it into the light. It may be an apology you have postponed because your pride is too large. It may be ending a relationship that pulls you away from me. It may be a small habit consuming your time, leaving no space for me. Or it may simply be the choice to set aside a few quiet minutes each morning. Let me speak before the world does. Repeated over time, these small steps will become a new path. I know you will not walk that path without moments of hesitation. There will be days you do well and days you stumble. When you stumble, the enemy will rush in, point to the slip and whisper, "See, you will never change. Give up now. Don't bother trying anymore." But I want you to remember clearly that voice is not mine. I never tell you to give up. I invite you to begin again. I never say, "You are useless." I say, "You are mine. Rise and walk with me." Every time you return is not proof of how unworthy you are, but proof that you trust me enough not to run elsewhere. I treasure every return more than you imagine. A child learning to walk falls many times, yet the father always picks them up, wipes their tears, and encourages them as long as the child still wants to walk. Do you think I am less than an earthly father? I do not only want to save you from the hell of the future, I want to save you from the little hells you live in each day. The hell of hidden sin, the hell of pretending, the hell of pressure to be good enough, the hell of a faith that lives only on the lips. I did not pay the price so you could live a dry religious life, but so you could know true freedom, true peace, true joy as you walk with me. The obedience I call you into is not a new chain, but the pathway out of every prison. When you say yes to me, you are saying no to what has weighed you down. When you say no to sin, you are opening the door to a freedom you have only heard others describe. When you dare to step onto the narrow road, you will begin discovering a wide life you never knew existed. And one day, when you look back, you will see that every small step of obedience, every moment you chose to return instead of run away, every honest tear you shed was never wasted. They were weaving together a life upon which I could place my hand and say, "This is my child, beloved, and willing to let me rewrite the story from within." On that day, you will understand more deeply than ever that every good thing that appeared in you was grace, yet also that you were never passive. You walked with that grace through every trembling but truthful yes. And what you will hear is not reproach, but welcome. Enter into the joy of your Lord. That is the destination toward which I am leading your soul. Today, you need only decide, will you continue living as one who hears, but does not act, or will you take steps, small but true, to prove that my grace in you has not been in vain? I am awaiting that answer in this very moment with a love that does not grow tired. My beloved, I want to bring you to a very specific threshold, not just thoughts, not just feelings, not just internal stirrings, but a true response of your will. All this time I have walked beside you through these words, these nudges, these quiet touches within. I have shown you the seriousness of hearing without living, the danger of the other masters in your heart, the beauty of grace, the process of transformation, and the call to step out of hollow religion. Now, I am not asking how much you understand or how deeply you feel. I am asking, what will you choose for the rest of your life? Not in a moment of emotional height, but in the orientation of your entire soul. You can continue on the old path, believing I am real, being moved by strong words, praying occasionally when trouble comes, yet allowing your decisions, big and small, to be ruled by self, by fear, by ambition, by old habits. You can also choose to thicken the religious shell, speaking more spiritually, involving yourself in more spiritual activities, so others assume you are closer to me while inside you still guard the rooms you refuse to let me enter. Both paths lead to the same result, a divided, heavy, weary soul that never truly knows what it means to rest in me. I do not force you to admit this, but if you look honestly, you will see that this is why, after all these years of listening and knowing, you still lack deep peace. But today I also set before you another way, the path of full surrender, not instant perfection, but a decisive, unmistakable direction. From now on, I want to live as one who belongs to you alone. What does that mean? It means you hand me the right to define who you are, the right to determine what is right and wrong in your life, the right to open and close the doors before you. It means you stop using me as a spiritual resource to summon when needed, and then set aside, and instead acknowledge me as Lord not only of your soul, but of history of tomorrow, of every detail. Surrender does not mean you disappear. It means you stop playing God over your own life and return that place to the one who has always been God. I know that when you hear the word surrender, something inside you tenses with fear. You fear losing control, fear being led somewhere you do not want to go, fear of letting go of something you believe you cannot live without. You fear that if you truly let me be Lord, I will take away everything you love. But my child, if I did not spare my own son, do you think I delight in making you empty? I do not come to strip life of color, leaving you joyless and gray. I come to uproot the things that are killing your soul, so that every joy and every dream you have may rest on a foundation that cannot be shaken. I never ask you to give up something better than me. I ask you to give up what has secretly stolen my place. When I ask you to release a relationship, a habit, an ambition, it is only because I see how silently it is consuming your heart, no matter how sweet it may appear on the surface. Surrender is not a leap into a void, it is a step into the arms of the one who proved his love with the highest price. You are not handing yourself to an unknown force, but to the one who calls every star by name, who knit you together in the womb, who counts every hair on your head, who has wept with your hidden tears, who stood beside you in your loneliest nights. Even when you turned your back, I was watching your every step, not to condemn, but to wait for the moment you looked back. When Micah 7:8 says, "Though I fall, I will rise. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. It is so you will know I do not stand against you. I stand with you if you allow me to be your light. I do not wait for your collapse with satisfaction. I wait for your lifting of the eyes." Inside you may raise a question. So where does full surrender begin? What must I actually do beyond feeling moved for a moment? I will not let that question go unanswered. It begins with a simple but real response. Lord, I choose you. I choose you above myself. I do not want to live as I have lived. You can say it alone in your room, on your bed, in tears, or in the middle of a busy day. I hear it, but I do not stop at the words. I will show you a first concrete step. It may be a sin that must be confessed and decisively turned from. It may be rearranging your time to give me the first part of the day instead of the leftovers. It may be ending a relationship that has drawn you away from me. It may be the courageous act of apologizing to someone you hurt. When I point to that step, you will know it not because it is easy, but because your heart is illuminated and trembling at the same time. And when you obey, even with shaking hands and uncertain feet, that is when surrender becomes reality. I do not build on grand but empty promises. I build on small but genuine steps. You can say, "From now on I belong to you," but what proves it is not the emotional intensity, but what you do tomorrow when you face familiar choices. Full surrender does not mean you will never stumble again. It means that from now on, when you face a crossroads, you no longer default to your own will, but pause to ask, Lord, what should I do? And when you sense my direction, even when it is difficult, you choose yes more often than no. Over time, the frequency of those yeses will reshape the very face of your soul. My child, I see how exhausted your heart has become from living in the in-between. You have tasted enough of the torment of a half-hearted faith, unable to return fully to your old life, without feeling empty yet too hesitant to step entirely into trust and find rest. You are like someone trying to keep one foot on each of two boats that are slowly drifting apart. The longer you stay there, the more pain, fear, and instability you feel. Today, I am not pushing you into the water. I am extending my hand and saying, "Step fully onto my boat." Yes, it will require you to lift your foot from the other one, and that moment may unsettle you. But once you stand firmly with me, you will understand why you have lacked peace for so long, because you did not wholly belong anywhere. True peace comes only when your spirit can say, not as a slogan, but as reality, "You are my Lord." Everything else is temporary. So now I bring you to the point of choice. Do you want to live as one who has been saved and is letting that salvation permeate every part of your life? Or will you continue walking as someone who only hears about salvation as a distant story? I have spoken, explained, pleaded, and opened my heart for you to see. Now I ask, what does your heart want? I do not require you to answer before a crowd, nor do I demand you prove yourself more zealous than others. I ask you in the secret place where only you and I are present, where all pretending falls away. In that moment, nothing can hide the truth. And there, one sincere yes from you is enough for all of heaven to become still, for me to begin writing a new chapter of your life, a chapter of someone who no longer merely listens, but has chosen to live for the one who loved them. First, if you respond to me, if within you there is already a trembling but honest yes, then now I want to guide you into something very practical, how to keep that yes alive amid a life full of noise and distraction. For I know there are moments when your heart burns and you say, "I give everything to you," yet the next day or the next week, in the middle of work, family demands, pressures, and fatigue, what was once bright becomes distant again. You assume that the fading of emotion means you have lost me, but that is not so. I do not only dwell in the moments of tears and swelling melodies. I am there as well in your rushed mornings, your monotonous hours at work, your evenings stuck in traffic, your nights when you fall into bed exhausted. A surrendered life is not measured by how many times you cry in my presence, but by how often you choose to turn your heart toward me in the simplicity of ordinary days. Learn to see your day as a string of small points where you can say yes or no to me. In the morning when you awaken, instead of rushing into worry, pause for a few moments, very short but sincere, and say, "Father, today I belong to you. Lead me, teach me, keep me." That prayer need not be long or eloquent. If it is honest, it sets your heart in a different direction. When you face a choice in your words, retaliate or keep silent, speak truth or bend it. You can breathe a quiet prayer. Lord, I want to respond as you desire, and then choose what pleases me rather than what protects your pride. When you are tempted to return to an old habit, you can say, "I am weak, but please help me not to go back," and then walk away, even if only once out of 10 times. Every such moment trains your soul with a new reflex to remember me before you act. Some days you will feel very close to me. Other days you will feel dry, as though prayer is speaking to a wall. You easily assume that emotionless days are failures, but my child, in those days your faithfulness shines brightest before me. When you open Scripture, though, your mind struggles to focus. When you come to me even when you feel nothing, when you uphold a boundary, I have shown you, even while your flesh screams, this is love that has grown beyond emotion and has entered the realm of the will. I cherish your emotions, and I rejoice when you weep in my presence, but I do not build our relationship on the waves of your moods. I build on my covenant and on your small but steady choices. Remember, the enemy will not remain still when you begin to walk in surrender. Since it cannot tear you from my hand violently, it chooses subtler means, sowing doubt, discouragement, comparison, self-condemnation. When you stumble again in something you thought you had overcome, it will whisper, "See, you haven't changed at all. All that resolve was an illusion." It wants you to forget that growth is not a straight line. It has bends, dips, and pauses. I, on the other hand, respond differently. When you fall, I do not stand at a distance shaking my head. I step beside you, extend my arms, and say, "Get up, child. Walk on with me. Do not remain here." What I desire is not a person who never stumbles, but a child who refuses to let failure dictate the direction of their life. My child, to walk along with me, you must learn to distinguish the voice of the Spirit from the voice of accusation. My Spirit will show you what is wrong, but always with a way forward, always with an invitation, always with hope. He will touch the painful places, but he will not crush you. He will reveal your sin, yet, in the same light, reveal the cross, so you know the price is paid. Accusation, however, shows you only your failure. No escape, no hope, no future. It says, "This is who you are and who you will always be. Expect nothing more." If you believe that voice, you will begin to accept chains as part of your identity and abandon the desire to change. I want you to look that lie in the face and say, "Yes, I am weak, but I do not belong to despair. I belong to the one who rescued me. I will not give up because he has not given up on me." Never forget that I gave you my word not as a text to display, but as daily bread. If you only listen to the outer voices, news, opinions, comments, social media, and rarely let your heart sink into my voice, it is no wonder that you are easily drawn into currents of fear, comparison, and restlessness. My word is a sword, a lamp, a mirror, a seed. When you read, meditate, and store it within you, are giving the Holy Spirit a clear language He can bring back to your mind in your hour of need. When you want to give up, He can stir within you the words, "My grace is sufficient for you," or "Whoever comes to me I will never cast out," or "Do not grow weary in doing good." These are not mere sentences. They become anchors holding you steady in the storm. Let my word go deeper than memory. Let it reach the reflexes of your heart, so that even before you think, your inner being is already turning toward me. And do not underestimate the power of small habits. A few quiet minutes with me each day can open pathways to changes you never imagined. A heart trained in gratitude, finding 3 small things to give thanks for daily, can slowly heal the lens through which you see life. A decision to set boundaries on what you allow into your mind, removing content that stirs, lust, fuels comparison, or feeds fear, will protect the soil of your soul from weeds that choke. I do not ask you to fix everything at once. I lead you step by step, habit by habit. Ask me, Lord, which habit do you want me to begin or lay down today? Then be faithful with that one thing until I show you the next. Sometimes the enemy knows he cannot topple you with obvious sin, so he tries to numb you with indifference. You may not fall into big sins, but your heart no longer burns for me. You still attend church, still sing, still listen to sermons, but inside, everything feels distant, belonging to a world far from you. You are not distressed by the distance. You simply feel, this is normal. That condition is more dangerous than you realize, because when you no longer feel your need, you will no longer seek me. I do not scold you for your cooling emotions. I call you back to honesty, Lord. I know my heart is dry. I no longer long for you as before. But I refuse to accept this as normal. Please awaken me. Reignite my desire for you. Such a prayer, though small, is a knock from within, and I will answer. There will be seasons when I allow you to walk through external silence so that inner depth can be built. You may not feel the fire you once did, but you will learn steadfastness, patience, and faithfulness. Do not equate silence with absence. Just as the roots of a tree grow deeper during seasons when no new leaves appear, your life in me also passes through times when I lead your faith to anchor itself beneath the surface in what is unseen. When you hold on to what I have already spoken, even when nothing feels fresh, you are maturing. A child needs constant stimulation, but a mature soul learns to walk by faith, not feeling. Remember, you do not walk this path alone. I have placed you within a body, brothers and sisters, who are also learning surrender, stumbling, rising, weeping, rejoicing. You do not need to wear the mask of perfection before them. Seek those who are genuine with me, and practice honesty with yourself in their presence. When you share your battles, not to parade your pain, but to ask for prayer and support, you will find your burdens lighter. The enemy wants to isolate you, for he knows a single coal removed from the fire grows cold quickly. But I gather the embers together, so the flame endures. Let me use others to keep your fire burning on the days you feel weak, and I will also use you to keep theirs alive when they grow weary. And above all, never forget that it is I who hold you, not you who hold yourself. I call you to obey, but I am also the one who gives you strength to obey. I invite you to walk, but I am also the one who lifts you when your legs tremble. I desire your transformation, but it is I who carry out that transformation when you remain in me. What I seek from you is not perfect strength, but a willing heart. If you keep that small yes within you, I will do the rest beyond all you can ask or imagine. Therefore, after you have said, I choose, you let that choice seep into each day, each decision, each habit. Do not wait for grand moments or special events. Begin right here in the ordinary things of today. Every small yes forms a pathway, and on that pathway I am not standing at the end waiting for you. I walk beside you, ahead of you, behind you, protecting, correcting, comforting. You will cry, you will laugh. You will have moments when you feel lost, but if you cling to me, you will never slip from my hand. And at the end of your earthly journey, you will discover that every step, every sigh, every hidden decision was gathered in my hands and woven into a story, that even you will marvel at, a story of a soul that learned little by little to live. as one who truly belonged to her Lord. My beloved child, I want to lift your eyes beyond the short days of earthly life, so you may see the weight of each step you choose today. For if you look only at a few weeks, months, or years ahead, you will grow discouraged. The efforts seem too small, the changes too slow, the battles too persistent. But if you understand that every quiet yes today is shaping your eternity, you will see everything differently. You will know that no act of faithfulness is wasted, no returning is pointless, no tear of repentance falls without my treasuring it. Each one I gather like precious stones in my treasury, so that on the final day you will see them carved, polished, and set into the crown of glory I place upon your head. Imagine a day when every veil between you and me is removed. No more fog of fatigue, doubt, or limited understanding. No more noise pulling your mind in 1,000 directions. No more false masters demanding your loyalty. Only me, the one who loved you first, who walked with you through every season, who never left you in your darkest nights, and you in the truest state of your soul. On that day, what stands between us will not be the words you once said, but the person those words helped shape. Every small choice, every unseen obedience, every moment you resisted deception, even when no one knew, they will shine like light upon your face. And on that day, all the things you clung to, the very things I asked you to release, will finally be revealed as the burdens they always were, meaningless beside the beauty of my presence. I do not say these things to make you fearful of the day of judgment, but to keep you from living as though that day were not real. Many walk through life like travelers who never consider that their journey has a destination. They wander, stopping wherever is convenient, settling wherever feels easy. But the one who knows that a home awaits him ahead, that a feast has been prepared, that someone stands at the door awaiting his arrival, will keep walking, even when the road is long and the feet grow tired, for every step forward brings him closer to home. I want your heart to live as one who is on the way home, not as a tenant renting a room in this passing world. When you work, love, serve, forgive, choose what is right, remember that you are storing up treasures for a day of meeting, not merely getting through the season. That truth will reshape how you see both joy and sorrow. Joy becomes not the goal but a gift along the way. Sorrow becomes not a pit, but the valleys through which I deepen the roots of your faith. I know what rises within you when you hear such grand realities. You look at yourself so ordinary, so limited, so tangled within, and you wonder, how could I be worthy of such a beautiful, eternal story? My child, because you are weak and small, I want you to know this truth. All the more the value of your soul is not measured by how much you can accomplish, but by the one who loved you, redeemed you, and called you by name. I do not invite you into my story because you are more exceptional than others, but because I do not want any whom I love to live and die without knowing the reason they were born. You were not created to drift through a few short decades, gather a bit of comfort, and then disappear. You were created to know me, to be transformed by me, to reflect me in a way no one else ever could. Your surrender today, whether it is in hidden corners, in small tasks, in unnoticed faithfulness, is weaving your unique melody into the eternal symphony I am composing. Look back on your journey with honesty, but also with hope. Yes, there were seasons when you walked far from me, choices that cost you years of sorrow, words and actions, and even thoughts that still make you blush with shame. I do not deny those things, nor do I ask you to pretend they never happened. I call you to bring even those shadows into my presence so I may touch them, cleanse them, and redefine them. Not to rewrite history, but to transform its meaning. When you surrender your past to me, I can turn the broken chapters into places where my grace flows out to others. The years you thought were wasted can become the very foundation from which you understand and comfort those who stumble just as you once did. The scars on your soul, when placed in my hands, cease to be stains. They become testimonies, marks that I have touched you, healed you, raised you again. Do not wait until you are perfect to imagine being used by me. Let me use you now mid-process, mid-struggle, as a living illustration of my patience and mercy. I am not ashamed to call you mine, even while I am still teaching you. A potter is not embarrassed to let others see the vessel still turning on the wheel. It is evidence that his hands are actively at work. Your presence in this world, with a heart slowly being renewed, is itself a quiet declaration that I am still acting, still saving, still transforming. Those who look at you will not see a flawless example, but a person truly touched and learning to respond, and that at times speaks louder than any sermon. My child, when I invite you to choose me today, I do not speak only of one significant date in history, but of every today in which you awaken. Each morning before the noise rises, before the world demands your attention, is a new today, a blank page I place in your hands and ask, what will you write upon this page with me? You can repeat the old script: fear, tension, complaint, compromise, delay, letting them hold the pen and write the same lines as yesterday. Or you can hand the pen to me, beginning with the simple prayer, not my will but yours be done. When you do this, I do not erase all difficulties, but I change their place. In your story, they cease to be your masters and become the stage upon which I am revealed. Every conversation, every choice, every challenge becomes an opportunity to live as one who belongs to me. This is how you walk out salvation, not merely talk about it. And finally, I want to tell you something simple yet profound. I want you with me. Not only in theory, not only in promise, but in the lived reality of your life. I have already paid the price to open the door. I have gone to lengths no one could ever say were not enough. Now I stand at the door of your heart, not as a beggar for affection, but as the gentle sovereign who respects your will yet loves you too fiercely to stop knocking. I have placed before you life and death, blessing and curse. I have revealed the danger of half-hearted faith, of hearing without doing. I have shown you the depths of my grace, the patience of my dealings, the future I long for you to enter. And now I give you a privilege no angel possesses, the privilege of responding freely, willingly in love. What will you say? Whom will you choose? How will you live with the days that remain? I do not ask you for a perfect response, only an honest one. If within your heart, even through layers of hesitation, there is still a whisper saying, Lord, I want to belong to you more fully. I do not want to live the way I used to, then know this: I have heard you, and I, the one who began the good work in you, will not abandon it halfway. I will walk with you through the seasons ahead. I will continue to speak, to correct, to comfort, to encourage, to lift you up until the day you stand before me, with a heart no longer divided, no longer torn between two directions, but a heart that has learned to love me with all that it is. On that day, every small act of obedience you offer, now every trembling yes, will be answered with a joy greater than anything you have known, the joy of being fully immersed in my presence, where there is no more sorrow, no more darkness, no more distance. Until that day comes, hold fast to what you have heard today. Do not let it slip away like so many other words. Let it become an invitation that calls you back whenever you waver. Remember that I do not speak once and then leave you to figure the rest out. I walk with you through every step of living out what I have spoken. And when your heart grows weak, when your lips no longer know how to pray correctly, simply whisper this: Lord, help me love you and walk with you. That prayer I will never refuse. It is a door you can always open, even on the days when strength and clarity seem far away, and I will meet you there. Thank you for listening to today's message. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so that we may continue to receive the living words together, build a steadfast faith, and walk daily in the boundless love of the Lord. Amen.